Hi and welcome to the Geeks Review. I'm Royce.
I'm Joshua.
I'm Ben.
Today we're going to be talking about Star Wars. Starting today with the original trilogy that introduced the world to George Lucas's creation and made household names of the stars Harrison Ford, Carrie Fisher, Mark Hamill and Darth Vader, and many more. Star Wars, also known as A New Hope, was released in 1977 and tells a tale of a galaxy subjugated by an evil empire and a small band of rebels hoping to bring it down through the destruction of the Empire's superweapon, the Death Star. You've probably seen Star Wars by now. Josh, what are your thoughts on Star Wars?
I think at the time, it was definitely revolutionary. A wonderful blending of many different genres, mysticism, sci-fi, and opera.
Well, to me, it's a classic adventure movie where you have a simple character, which is Luke Skywalker. He's just a simple farm boy who craves adventure. And then he meets C-3PO and R2-D2, and he's like, wait a minute. So this message is for Obi-Wan. I wonder if it means Ben Kenobi. And I just love how simple it is, and it doesn't need to explain itself as much as most movies do sometimes. So
yeah, I mean, we sort of get this opening crawl at the beginning, which is a staple of the series.
Which fills us in on what's going on.
Yeah, just flings you straight into the story, and
which is actually what the Flash Gordon movies, the original movies, had.
Yeah,
with the crawl text and all that.
Yeah, because originally didn't George Lucas want to do a Flash Gordon movie?
But he couldn't get the rights to it, so he just made Star Wars instead.
A wise choice, I feel.
Yeah, a very wise choice.
One of the few he made, but
yeah.
It really throws you in, and you got this opening crawl, you see Darth Vader, you meet Princess Leia, you spend a lot of time with these droid characters who are very human despite being robots. And by the time you meet Luke Skywalker, he's sort of separated from the wider universe, but he knows everything about the universe that we, the audience, now know. He knows what droids are, he knows about the Empire, he knows about the Rebellion. And with him, you then join him as you get to experience the rest of the universe through his eyes, through this series.
I think what it is about Luke in this movie, it's pretty much what it shows about his character. He's longing for adventure, which is what most of us have. I want to do something. I want to go out there and explore.
He's easily stand-inable for the audience.
Yeah, very, very. People find him very relatable as well. People are like, I don't want to do chores. I want to go out there and adventure. I want to have a great life out there.
It is interesting because I did notice he was sort of, not completely, but he is sort of a blank slate in that way, is that you can experience the adventure through his eyes.
It isn't until in the later films that he actually develops a little bit more.
Yeah.
Yeah, as you get to know him, that's...
Which is one of the reasons why I like the original trilogy. You just see the development of his character, and I think it's a perfect transition for him.
A beautiful start to a hero's journey.
Exactly.
Along with the other characters in this story, like Obi-Wan Kenobi and Darth Vader, the villain Tarkin, and Princess Leia and Chewie, these characters, they all bring something different to this world. Like Obi-Wan Kenobi brings this mysticism, and as does Vader to some degree. They're like these great warriors of a time that's
space
past.
Samurai.
Yeah. Whereas you got characters like Han Solo and Princess Leia, which somewhat humanise the story, mostly through their own charms, like Carrie Fisher and Harrison Ford. Their own performances really elevate those characters and bring a level of realism and grounding to the whole thing. And even the character C-3PO, he's almost a comic relief, I noticed, in that first film.
Yeah, because he's pretty much that. He's always constantly arguing with R2-D2, so definitely he is that comic relief, which is funny enough. Back when Star Wars was released, apparently there was a few people that actually hated C-3PO.
I can see where it comes about because going on to the later films, he really becomes a bit more grating.
Yeah.
He's
But I think that's more a tribute to the writing of the later films. Sort
of the Flanderization of he's just known to be this really... There's this moment when they're caught in the trash compactor. 3PO and R2 have obviously run away from the stormtroopers and they're now hiding. And they're just like, we haven't heard from Master Luke. Oh, I turned off the communicator. I completely forgot I'd done that. And you're just like, heaven's sake, 3PO.
Yeah. They're literally on the brink of death, and now you just remember you turned your communicator off.
He's like, oh, what's this? Oh, I forgot about that.
I think that is meant to be the screaming at the screen moment for everyone, intentionally.
Yeah. I tried to watch this film. I haven't actually seen this film very often. Unlike some Star Wars fans. We're all Star Wars fans.
No, we're all, yeah. we all have our own takes on each movie, and everyone has their own opinions on each movie particularly. So
yeah. But I tried to watch this film as if I hadn't seen it at all. Like, to go in with that mindset of like, it's 1977, there's other films. And, I watch a lot of movies, I've seen a lot of films from this era. And the 70s was really like an experimental time for film.
Yeah, sci-fi wasn't really popular back then as well.
No,
This is why Flash Gordon crashed and burned.
Yeah, it had long passed, like the 50s and 60s was where it was really at, Star Trek and Doctor Who was around at that time. But this film, if you were watching movies around at that time, this film is like, it's like a shot of something really strong. It's something.
The very first shot of the movie, it just blows your mind because you see a ship fly past and you see a massive Star Destroyer just coming over the top of you, and you're like, whoa.
I remember, when I was...
Size and scale.
Yeah, the scale was amazing.
Yeah, like 20 years ago I first saw that film and just gone like, wow, it just keeps on going and going and going. Did we have any other thoughts on this film?
I honestly think well, speaking of the ships, I think how the ships were actually done, comparative to how most of them are being done now, is really beautiful because most of them were pretty much still models being carried over by wires. The same thing with the Death Star. That was all, little sets,
little
made.
practical effects, which
they hold up to today.
Yeah, they hold up today, and they also have their own magic to it. Which it's one of the reasons why I like Rogue One, because it kind of fixes that same thing. It has that same fixation on the Star Destroyers, how they look like their models.
Yeah, that the CGI which they really implemented in that film, and of course you've got newer enterprise, is that the word? Like the Mandalorian, which uses models as well for a lot of.
They've gone back to the old style of how George used to do things.
Yeah, it really creates this believability, and this film has been changed since its original release.
Yeah, a few times.
Better or for worse.
Back in 1997, George Lucas, with all these CGI computer gadgets, said, I want to go back and fix my movies, and he went and added to it. And some believe that this really impacted upon the film in a negative way. And you can't really watch this film nowadays unless you happen to own the VHSs from back in the day.
Yeah.
If you watch it on Disney Plus or on Blu-ray, like I did, it's gone and got all these
It's got all the changes.
Unnecessary additions, and it really makes these simple effects from 42 years ago just stand out, but in a good way. Like, they look believable because actually tangible and real and being affected by the elements in the way that, CGI dinosaur aliens aren't.
Yeah, it's like some of the scenes actually do work, but it just... because you can tell, like, straight away that it just looks out of place sometimes.
I think a good example of out of place, but it still somehow works, is the addition of Jabba the Hutt in front of the Falcon.
Yeah, because when I first saw that, the original shot of that, I was like, whoa, Jabba looks horrendous.
Yeah, so Jabba, he's the big slug creature, and the original idea was them superimpose a stop-motion puppet into the scene, but they couldn't do it. So they actually got rid of the scene and went and took dialogue from it and implemented it into an earlier scene. So this scene is almost entirely superfluous.
Pretty much, yeah.
And then they added it back in with a horrible computer-generated monstrosity.
For the time, it was definitely a technological marvel. I almost could feel that Jabba is in the scene, and Han was able to interact with it when he, steps over
him. Yeah, and because the original shot was actually an Irish-Scottish actor, and they actually had to edit Harrison Ford to step over Jabba, and it looked really authentic as well, which I thought was really good.
I think because back then it was released on VHS, and VHS not the greatest quality.
You can't see the details as well, which is why I think they got away with it really well. So,
but now you've gone and got 4.
You can kind of see little blurs just as Harrison's coming down, and you're like, yeah, I see it, but it's still good
for the time.
Yeah.
But then in 2004, he went and redid the effect. Like, he went and completely replaced it and redid it, tried to make it look better. It does in some regards, but it's like, after all these changes which he made before he went and sold on the rights, why didn't he update that again?
If it's not broke, don't fix it.
But it was broken.
Yeah, that's a pretty famous line that I hear from everyone. If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
That should have been the mentality he had with the original one.
Yeah.
I mean, there's some effects which you can...
You can definitely clean up a little bit, but...
Because it's really interesting looking at the original versions of these films, and it's like, you can see the background through pilots' heads when they're flying in their spaceships, or when, you know, someone shoots past on a jetpack, they're sort of like not there
Quite
fully. They're like
there.
bleeding into the background because the effect just doesn't work.
Yeah.
But I mean,
for the time, they did well.
yeah.
Yeah.
And there's films out there that came out at the same time doing effects, which people haven't gone back and added to and
Like
changed.
RoboCop.
Yeah. Like, you know, not every film is perfect. Like, even now, there's films coming out with shoddy effects here and there, but they don't go, oh, we can fix that, we can do that. You know, they present it and just should leave it.
Yeah, because what Star Wars did, it changed how films were made. Like, it revolutionized the film industry. Like, they're like, all right, so we can actually do more sci-fi, we can actually do more flashy stuff. So
Yeah, you had a lot of Star Wars clones.
Yeah.
It wasn't
after
as box office poison as people thought it was going to be.
yeah,
It wasn't. The other clones that I guess came about from this weren't as good, and I think it's really shows just what magic this original film.
A good example would be Disney's Black Hole.
Oh,
That is a Star Wars clone.
oh, really?
Yeah.
I mean, because there's too many to name, but
It's a good example that comes to mind.
they all tried to go for something and they just failed. But this one, I think, just, I don't know, it took itself seriously enough, but not too serious, and just didn't feel a need to explain everything, like we said. Do we have any extra notes we want to say before we move on to the next film, just in regards to this movie?
coming back to the characters, like one of my favorite characters in the first original Star Wars movie, A New Hope, was Obi-Wan, because I liked how when he has that conversation with Luke where he's like talking about, it's like, you knew my father? He's like, yeah, I was a Jedi Knight, the same as your father, and he's talking about the Force, which adds another level to the story, and you're like, what is the Force? Like, what is it a part of? And like, and as he says, like, to be a Jedi, you have to have a lightsaber, which is a magical weapon, which is like powered by the Force. And yeah, just honestly, if Star Wars didn't have lightsabers, I reckon it'd be a very completely different story.
Absolutely.
Oh, sure, yeah.
Yeah, because no one's ever seen a weapon like that.
Oh, definitely not. No, not back then. Yeah,
Like,
I mean,
like if you you just have a random scene from a movie, and if you see a lightsaber, you're like, oh, I know what that's
It's
from.
Star Wars.
Yeah, it's Star Wars.
it's like I said, it really did just make all these alien things so just household names. People know who Darth Vader or Chewbacca is. You know, they know what a lightsaber is when they see it, and whenever you see like another film try to rip it off, you're like, I know
It's
what you're
like
doing.
the most iconic, recognizable weapon in films.
Going back to Obi-Wan just very quickly, played by Alec Guinness. I think this is Star Wars' only acting Oscar that it won, was for Alec Guinness's portrayal of Obi-Wan Kenobi in the original film.
He wasn't a big fan of the role anyway.
No, yeah, no.
But it's really interesting how he plays this role, how he talks about the character of Anakin Skywalker, you know, Luke Skywalker's father, how he was killed by, you know, another apprentice of his, Darth Vader. And at that time that was written, Darth Vader, I mean, everyone knows it now, but Darth Vader is Anakin Skywalker, he's Luke's father.
Yeah.
When that was originally written, that wasn't the intention.
No, it wasn't.
And he plays it as such, as like these were two separate entities who...
Two separate characters on their own.
Well, I mean, technically what he does say is true.
It is true, yeah.
From a certain point of view.
Yeah, exactly.
We'll move on now to the next film in the series, which is The Empire Strikes Back. The sequel, the dark sequel, where everything goes bad. For the good guys, at least, and goes good for the bad
And
guys.
arguably the most popular Star Wars movie to date.
It wasn't at the time when it
What
came
wasn't
out.
at the time, but
Looking
yeah,
back,
yeah.
a lot of people are holding it to that really high standard.
People say it's the definitive Star Wars sequel movie.
Yeah, I gave it a watch last night, and there's so much in it that builds upon what came before. This was directed by Irvin Kershner, who George Lucas did the first one. And George Lucas's sense of directing is very classical. It's like very much like the films of its time. Irvin Kershner, I think he really just further invigorated the whole filmmaking landscape, like just by making the film so dynamic and action-packed and
another thing,
tense.
yeah, another thing too. I reckon he just really understood where George was going with this, with the story on how this, because George, he wrote episodes 4 to 6 in one go. He had the whole big script of it, and he had read it all down. And I think Irvin, what he did, he looked at the story and he understood where this story was going. Particularly for Empire Strikes Back. He knew that's like, okay, heroes are losing and there's a big struggle. And the bad guys are starting to fight back, which is like
more invigorated.
Yeah, because you have a lot of movies where the heroes always come out top at the end.
And Empire is a wonderful showing of, the good guys did win, but they lost a lot to get to where they were.
Yeah, exactly.
What can be said about Empire other than what has already been said for it? It's an amazing film. Will always be my number one Star Wars film. Granted, there's a few things that haven't aged well, but that adds to the charm of it, like the Yoda puppet. But honestly, I think my favorite parts of it will always be Battle of Hoth, the bounty hunters on the Executor, and the temptation of Luke in Cloud City and on Dagobah.
You mentioned the puppet, and I think the puppet, it doesn't quite stand up to modern standards, but it's believable.
He's there.
Well, funny enough about Yoda for puppet, originally Yoda was going to be played by a monkey wearing a mask.
I heard that.
Yeah, and I actually seen the actual photos of that, and I'm like, there's no way they could have gotten that to work. Luckily, it was changed for the better. Yoda, he adds more.
Henson Company to the rescue.
Yeah.
Yeah, portrayed by Frank Oz, best known for playing Miss Piggy in The Muppets.
Yes.
And various other, Grover or whoever else.
Yeah.
It's a really interesting subversion with this character as well, because Luke's been told, travel to Dagobah and meet the great Master Yoda, and he'll teach you more about what you need to know about the Force and being a Jedi. And he meets this little froggy creature, and he's like getting impatient and just not understanding when are you going to take me to this great master. And then that's when Yoda reveals himself. And like I said, I tried to watch this film as if I'd never seen it before, following on from that. And it really is this sense of wonder when he does come out and reveal himself as like, I am the great master, I am, I know all this stuff. And it really sets him apart from what we've seen before and continues to expand this world, this universe.
Because what I saw from that was like he was acting silly and being like childish and all that. The way I saw that, he was just testing Luke to see
nothing is what it seems.
Yeah, exactly. Like it's a perfect subversion for his character, as you said.
Yeah,
it doesn't put us off at all, and you're like, wow, so that's the great Master Yoda.
Yeah, it's a really good introduction, and it's like what you said, nothing is what it seems, Josh, which is really the entire theme for this film.
It pretty much is. Which is why Dagobah is one of the, like I said, the temptation of Luke, especially on Dagobah. The cave.
He goes into the dark cave and he meets what appears to be Darth Vader. Quick fight, and he cuts off Vader's head, and the mask explodes to reveal Luke's own face within this sort of this thematic thing of like, this darkness is within him, and he has the potential to be Darth Vader if he's not careful.
Yeah.
And he's not careful. And that's how the bad guys lose. I did try to watch this film, like I said, as if it was the first time, and it does leave me with a lot of feelings that the most recent Star Wars film, The Last Jedi. But there is like a similar feeling of just dread and anxiety with the rebels, the good guys, just being chased and pursued relentlessly by the bad guys, and nothing goes right for them. Han Solo gets captured and presumably killed. And remember, at the time when this came out, there was going to be a 3-year gap between movies, so you didn't know what was going to happen.
Exactly.
And Harrison was completely uncertain if he wanted to stay on project.
Yeah, that's why he requested, is like, well, put Han in a situation where he could die, and because Han felt for his character, and particularly seeing him being frozen in carbonite, it sits really hard on the heart. Really, one thing I love about the original trilogy is just the classic themes that John Williams has added to everything, like particularly with the Force theme, and you've got the very sad parts, particularly when Han was frozen in carbonite. Just the emotion behind the music, it just sits perfectly.
It really is, and even when the music isn't there in certain scenes, you really feel it. It's really impactful and sort of creates a sense of unease, if that's the intention.
It expands, but still keeps it going.
Keeps it consistent as well.
Before, we didn't even know who the Emperor was. It showed us the Emperor.
Like I said, you look at the original films now, and I remember, and compare it to the films which are coming out, and I remember the feelings I get watching those films. And, but it's very easy to transfer those feelings to these original films and understand what it might have been like to have watched these films back in the day. And go like, who is this Emperor character? What's going to happen?
It builds
with
on
Han.
the mystery that they've established.
I noticed with the character of Lando, played by Billy D. Williams, who's introduced quite late in this story.
Yeah.
I think if this film had come out today, he would have been taken by the audience in a way similar to the character of Holdo. We're jumping forward a bit to the most recent film again, Last Jedi, played by Laura Dern, this character,
Yeah.
Admiral Holdo, who...
It's a
divisive character.
Yeah.
It's a checkbox ticker character.
Well, we're more talking about her function within the story and Lando's function within the story here. We meet Lando and we're sort of told, oh, we don't know if we can trust him. You know, we feel a bit uneasy around him, but he's acting okay. And then it turns out he sells them all out to the bad guys, but then he has a change of heart. But at the end of the film, like I said, there would have been a three-year gap. You're like, well, Lando, I still don't exactly trust him. Because he went and sold out the good guys, and it's the reason why Han's in this situation that he's in.
And funny enough, Billy D. Williams got a lot of hate from that. Like, he had a
Really?
lot of Star Wars fans coming up to him. It was like, you betrayed Han Solo. He's like, hey, in his defense, it's like, hey, well, what would you do if you had a city you were in control of and you were threatened by the Empire? What would you do?
I think Billy's probably one of the actors that have come through Star Wars and managed to not be just completely destroyed by the fan base.
I think he just takes it as it is, you know. I mean, Harrison Ford resents the whole thing.
Yeah.
which is quite amusing, I find. But
Yeah.
Billy D. Williams is just like, hey, you know, whatever, I'm
Smooth
Lando.
jazz. I'm the face behind Colt 45.
Moving on to the last Star Wars film now, which I haven't rewatched for about a year. I don't think any of us have really watched it, so now we're really sort of going off the fumes of an oily rag.
I managed to get maybe 20 minutes into it before I said, no, I gotta go to bed.
For Return of the Jedi, to me, it's my favourite original trilogy movie because, like, if you have, like, maybe, like, a trilogy or just a two-parter movie, I like the end fight. So there's a lot at stake here. So if the Rebellion does not destroy this Death Star, they're going to be in the exact same situation than they were at the beginning of Episode 4.
Plus, there's the additional character stakes, which we've now got. I mean, we've been with these characters for two films, on to the third. Luke Skywalker has now, you know, evolved to be a full Jedi. He's learned from his mistakes, but he's still got many more hurdles to overcome.
My favourite portrayal of Luke, because I love how confident he is when he walks in Jabba's palace. He's like...
He's in control.
Yeah. Yeah, he's threatening. Like, you're like, whoa, like, I still, like, even though Luke's a good guy, you still wouldn't want to mess with him.
We knew two movies ago.
No.
When he's actually walking into the palace, how he just deals with the guards, just a quick gesture, instantly... When I first watched it, I thought, wait, is he using Force Choke?
Actually, it's actually Shatterpoint. It's a unique Force ability where you just, like, you can scan the weakest point of an object or a target, and you just apply a little pressure to the Force, and it really hurts them.
So go for the throat when you're dealing with green pigmen.
I do like green eggs and ham.
But we start this film, and obviously Han Solo has been captured. The rebels are, you know, almost defeated. He's now being held by a big slug man. Princess Leia is captured. Lando is there, and apparently the droid's captured as well. Luke Skywalker goes in, almost fed to a giant monster, but then, you know, Han is freed, and then there's this big fight out in the desert with this, you know, giant monster, the Sarlacc, that lives in the sand dunes and eats people. And it's an interesting start to a movie. Much the same with the previous film starts with Luke getting attacked by the snow monster, the Wampa. It's quite an interesting way to start the film. I mean, imagine if they go and start a film now and immediately it's like, oh, James Bond gets eaten by a shark.
I wouldn't put it past the next film to do that, but...
It's sort of a distraction in a way, because this whole Jabba thing was just to get Han
back. Yeah, because Harrison Ford was finally convinced to come back and...
Here, have some money.
Yeah.
Fine, I'll do it.
Yeah.
The first 45 minutes of this film is just to that, really, and then there's the entire other plot. And I think it works. Like, it juggles...
It establishes where our characters are at.
Yeah.
Minus Han, who's been out cold for God knows how long.
Yeah. It juggles it all rather well. But did you ever sort of leave these films wanting for more? Or did you just sort of watch it and go like, you know, you watched it at such a young age, you take it at face value, and you go like, oh, that's how it is? Or do you go like, I wish there was more of this, I wish there was more of that?
I kind of saw it like with Return of the Jedi, because to me it was a perfect, satisfying ending. Like, because the heroes win, and it's a perfect ending for each character, and like it. Of course, there are people who are like, we want more. We want to see more of these characters.
Yeah, of course.
But I reckon it would have been perfect just to end it there, like, if you're going to make another Star Wars movie, make it like maybe 100 years later, or maybe do one before the events of the original trilogy. Because it's the perfect conclusion of the hero's journey.
It completes not only one hero's journey, it completes two heroes' journeys.
Yeah.
Which, of course, the Star Wars universe has been expanded upon and grown following that. I mean,
with
not
comic books and video games.
I think one thing I would have liked from this original trilogy was more of Leia, because Leia of the core three, while she does have a definite character, I think mostly through the portrayal of Carrie Fisher, is sort of left wanting more. And with these new films, with everyone coming back, you think, oh, we're going to get that. With Han Solo, I think we really got something there. For Luke, we've got something there as well, but also, there's all these other films and books which, don't technically exist within the greater story, but they're still there, they still exist, you can still read them. But with Leia, especially now that Carrie Fisher is gone, it feels like there was more to explore there, and we just never got a chance to explore. In the first film, her home planet gets destroyed, her entire family, and everyone she knows just killed.
Gone.
And it's never addressed.
And surprisingly, she takes it well as well.
She does take it extremely well. I mean, there are additional comics or whatever that establish that she grieved in her own time. But and it makes sense within the story. I mean, we knew who Obi-Wan was, and we need a moment to sort of, with Luke, to grieve his loss. But
like with Leia, with her losing her family and her planet, which she was raised at, like, it just adds more to her character. Like, she's not the typical damsel in distress that most people would assume that her character is.
She's the warrior maiden.
Yeah,
hiding under the facade of the damsel.
She can defend herself, and she's smart too.
Yeah.
And it really sets the stage for female characters. Sometimes, most female characters back then, for in the 70s in the movies, were always damsel in distress. They always cried for the heroes to save them and all that. But Leia, she was different. She was feisty. She didn't take anything from anyone.
She picked up the blaster in the middle of the bloody prison cell and started firing down the damn thing and started giving orders.
Yeah, exactly.
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
She's amazing. I mean, even if there was a leading female role before, it's Barbarella, a sci-fi movie, Jane Fonda. Even if she's the lead hero, she's still constantly a damsel in distress. And Leia is just like a complete counterpoint. And of course, you've gone and got the whole the gold bikini scene with Jabba the Hutt. I've actually been told a really good name for that outfit. It's the Hutt Slayer, because what she does.
Yeah,
that's right.
That's a friend of mine told me that.
On that.
It's really a fun thing. But even when she's put into this situation, bad guys try to bring her down, she does go like, no, screw you, and she fights back, and she friggin' kills the guy.
Yeah,
who does
chokes him with the chain that she's connected to.
It's literally breaking the chains. The good part about Leia's character was, the wit behind it too. How she was able to keep up with the exchange with Tarkin.
She's very smart for her character. And I reckon that's why she stands out to a lot of female characters when it comes to that. So, yeah, because a lot of movies today... So I've noticed that some movies today actually struggle to have good female characters. Sometimes they have, like, characters who are like, I know a lot of stuff, but you don't need to know why or anything like that. I'm just that good, or something like that. The issue is there's a lot of female characters that just hate on men.
Oh, not necessarily.
Well, kind of. Like, you have that bit of an argument there.
I think that was just sort of... But it's always down to, like, a male writer who sort of creates, like, a I think it's the Buffy the Vampire Slayer sort of thing around the 90s, where you kind of had a lot of female characters parroting her, and she was just, like, the tough girl, but she still looks a certain way, and she does the kung fu and all that, and she's like, I don't need any man to look after me. And... we're moving on to more nuanced characters now, but I think it's definitely thanks to Leia. She was given an amazing base, and it was really her performance that just elevated it and turned it into something so amazing how it is today. Let's see how the prequel trilogy handles female characters, and indeed any other character it touches. Next week we talk about the prequel trilogy, which started with The Phantom Menace and ended in 2005 with Revenge of the Sith. This has been the Geeks Review. I'm Royce.
I'm Joshua.
I'm Ben.
And we'll see you next time.